Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm Ross Benjamin, joined once again by my co-host, Las Vegas professional sports handicapper, Chip Chirimbus. Chip, how was your weekend, buddy?
Well, you know, you're in and out, and for the second straight Saturday, I went 1-4, very disappointed. And you know what happened, Ross? You know, we've had two games that were our top plays the last two Saturdays, which were removed. They were just postponed and canceled, and it sort of took the edge off. Looking to bounce back this week. Yesterday, of course, we closed with our Sunday night bailout winner. That makes 5 straight. Now 19-8, Ross, on those standalone games. So Monday night should be interesting.
Yeah, those standalone games you've been absolutely phenomenal with. And for people who aren't familiar with that phrase, Chip, you might want to explain just a tad bit further.
All right, this is just NFL. When they have an NFL game which is scheduled by itself on a Thursday night, a Sunday night, and Monday night, I've been posting those games individually, 19-8 on the year, and we did pass one game. We passed the winner at that time. We had the Giants, I believe it was. But I'm still looking forward to each and every one of these days. And I look at the schedule in advance, Russ, and it just seemed to be popping off the page at me. Yeah. I think we both had the winner last Thursday night with Indianapolis over Tennessee. And last night we had New England, which won outright over Baltimore. And so I feel very comfortable with these games. And it's the only thing I could really brag about this weekend because 2-2 on Sunday and then the 1-4 Saturday just like destroys you. Actually, 2-4 Saturday because we did have that big early winner with Nebraska.
There you go.
Yeah.
And again, Nebraska, Penn State gains 500 yards and they lose the game. You know?
Yeah, I think I have a Big Ten game of the year this Saturday. After all of this, my first game of the year this season will be tipping off in the Big Ten.
You're talking about the Iowa-Penn State game, possibly?
Oh, for certainly.
Okay. I figured. See, that's how well I know you. You know, a couple of bad beats. Couple bad beats in the NFL yesterday. You know, my Buffalo Bills, and again, those who know me, if I play on Buffalo, you know I love them. I told Chip, I didn't think they were the right side this week. I had a bad feeling, and I won't bet against them. That's the only team I do that with.
You know,
and you know what? A Hail Mary pass by Kyler Murray, hell of a play by DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, the three guys who were back there for Buffalo were their three best secondary guys, Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, and Jordan Poyer. And he just went up and, you know, tip your hat. He made a great play.
There are 8 hands up there, and I've seen that play over and over and over again, and the ball went to his 2 hands. And by the way, there was a double bad beat on that game because if you are a Buffalo fan, you have to be sick about the Hail Mary on the last play of the game for Arizona to cover. And if you bet Arizona, you have to be sick about them taking a knee and not covering the spread. Early in the week, it was 1.5 and 2. And like I said, I had played it on the money line. But, I mean, that's heartbreak for somebody that when they see that touchdown pass for the Cardinals, they must be exhilarated until they realize they never.
Just think if you're not thinking ahead, because it was the right play, Chip, right?
Absolutely.
We talked about this off air. You don't attempt an extra point up 2 with 2 seconds to go.
Doesn't make sense. They did the right thing. Whereas in the Cleveland game, it was a Chubb. They were laying 3.5. He's got a 10-7 lead going out of bounds at the 1-yard line with a minute to go.
Yeah.
You know, he scores. There's very unlikely the other side's going to score 10 points in a minute to catch you up.
I mean, he scores. He makes it a 2-score game.
Right.
Now, there's been issues that's happened in the NFL, one with Atlanta, and in college football, I believe the one that happened with Penn State early on against Indiana, where a running back had the opportunity to fall short of the goal line and leave the other team with no timeouts in a 1-possession game. Yet they both went in and scored, and in the ensuing drive, the other team comes back to tie the game and win it in overtime. This wasn't the case.
No.
This score puts you up 9. It's now a 2-score game with less than a minute to play, which is highly unlikely. But, you know, again, I don't think the coach had any problem with it, but I'm sure a lot of bettors out there. Could you imagine, you know, if you had Arizona in that game and you're watching the game and you're not thinking ahead and thinking with strategy and going, oh, we got it, we're going to end up covering this game. and then they line up and they kneel on the ball. Or if you had Buffalo plus 2.5 or 3, and you're going, I'm going to end up with a push or loss on this game, right? You're throwing things at the TV, and there you go, you know.
I am underrating the Bills a bit. I mean, you were afraid and very cautious of them this weekend, but they were the winner against the point spread in that game, and for good reason. I thought they played a great game. I thought they outplayed the Cardinals there, and in a way, if I'm not going to win the game other than the money line situation, I would have loved to see the Bills pull off the upset there.
Yeah, but look now, don't look now, but the Miami Dolphins are half a game back in the AFC East. It's hard to believe. You know, Chip, they've won 5 in a row. I have to look at the statistics. I know they had less than 300 yards of offense again yesterday. Yeah, I think they've won 4. They're in this 5-game winning streak. I believe 4 of the 5 wins, they had less than 300 yards of offense.
Well, not only that, they've only outgained one opponent the entire season, and that was the Jets.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. But and they put up 29 yesterday. Would they have? You said how many yards? 280.
Yeah.
You know? And they end up with 29 points. Go figure. You know.
Yeah, but their defense has been turning plays into points, and they, with the interceptions and you know what, Ross? Let's get to some of these college games. We're going to do plenty of.
I'm sorry. It was a unique day in the NFL, and you know, we just wanted to touch upon that. Anyway, Iowa at Penn State. That's the game that Chipper was talking about. He's probably going to have a game of the year, so I don't want to disclose a lot. But let's just say Iowa minus 2.5 right now on the road at Penn State. Penn State, first time 0-4 in umpteen years. And Iowa, after a shaky 0-2 start, Chip, 2 impressive wins the last 2 times out. So any thoughts you want to share with the listeners without showing your hand?
Yeah, well, both of these teams have been able to move the ball. If you check the numbers on the Penn State loss against Nebraska, even though Nebraska beat them soundly and handily, they jumped out to a big lead. It just seems this Penn State team garners all these yards, misses a field goal, commits a penalty, and turns the ball over. They have not been playing really good fundamental football this year, which is Penn State style football. Why in that game against Indiana, they had 10 individual penalties. Yeah. I mean, that's a kill. 2.5 penalties a quarter is just going to kill you. It's just going to really destroy anything you may have going. But Iowa, after those 2 heartbreaking losses, has bounced back really strong. And, a lot of people anticipate them to be one of the stronger teams in the Big Ten this year. But it should be an interesting matchup, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, absolutely. Iowa going for 3 in a row, and Penn State trying to avoid an 0-5 start to the season, and that's just unheard of in Happy Valley. Anyway, number 7, Cincinnati, off an impressive win. I had them as a free pick on Friday night. I took a lot of flack on my video when they gave them out minus 27.5. And Chip, I don't like laying that big number. But the bottom line is this. You had a Cincinnati team that was number 6 in the country. They're coming off 3 wins of 28 points or more against pretty good opponents. SMU, Houston, and another good AAC team I can't think of off the top of my head. In any event, they went from number 6 to number 7 with Florida jumping over them at 4-1. Right. You don't think they had a chip on their shoulder? Well, they did. No pun intended, by the way, buddy. 55-17. Easy covers, a 27.5-point favorite. A little more difficult, in my opinion, this week. Going on the road against Central Florida. Cincinnati right now is a 6-point road favorite, Chip. This is a dangerous Central Florida team. I mean, they can't stop anybody, but their offense is absolutely dynamic. Now, having said that, they haven't faced a defense like Cincinnati's all year. And, again, this is a tough call at this particular juncture in time. Your thoughts, Chipper?
Well, about Cincinnati, you having the right side against East Carolina, I had said the only thing that possibly could have stopped them was their own attitude if they didn't take the game seriously. And, Ross, these teams like Notre Dame, I can't wait till we talk about that one. And we had talked about the fact that their schedules are limited. They're taking every game seriously now, and they're not sitting down and thinking that they have a cakewalk at any point in time. I think the intensity level is there every week. Central Florida is an offensive juggernaut. This quarterback who Dylan, I think his name is right, Gabriel Dillon. And
Yes, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah,
I transpose everything.
it's okay.
I transpose teams, events, cities. But you've heard me do it a number of times already, and it's not just
You're a numbers guy, Chipper. You're a numbers guy.
I am. Letters don't do me much good. But yeah, this is two great offenses here. I guess the way to go maybe the over, but Cincinnati, like you said, can play some defense. My thoughts originally when I saw it was that if there's a spot Cincinnati's going to get caught, this team is good enough to catch them. And I don't know if I'm talking about. See, Cincinnati has to win outright.
Yeah.
To be in contention, and
they have no room for error, Chip. When it comes, if they want a chance at the playoff.
Right. And if they win out, they might actually get a shot at it. Who knows? But this is a big game for them. And like I said, are they the Black Knights or the Panthers? I keep confusing. It's Central Florida.
Cincinnati Bearcats.
No, that's Cincinnati.
Golden Knights, Central Florida.
Okay. And they've been a great take to over season after season after season. To see them a dog like this is quite surprising, being that it's not a bowl game. I mean, anytime they're 11 points in a bowl game, we take them and they'll beat Alabama outright. But this is tough quality. I'm looking forward. This is a game I'd really like to watch, Russ. I really would.
Yeah, it'll be entertaining. I mean, just to remind you that UCF lost 2 games this year and blew big leads in both games against Tulsa. And the other one was against SMU, where they blew a 21-point second-half lead in that game. The good news is they got a dynamic offense. The bad news is their offense can't afford empty possessions because they can't rely on their defense, although they did play a good defensive game last week. Highly anticipated matchup, especially in the state of Indiana, where the Indiana Hoosiers are number 9 in the country. Wow. And they're taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. That game will be played in the Horseshoe in Columbus. And Ohio State right now, a 20.5-point favorite. Boy, I've been underestimating Indiana the last 2 weeks, Chip, and they've really burned me.
They totally shut down an internet Michigan State offense. I mean, they had 31 yards. I got beat by Michigan State. I think it was 2 weeks before, and last week I think you had them and got hurt. And we made a mistake, Ross. Both of us knew that Notre Dame was a winner, and that was the play of the weekend. And we both ignored it because we were so afraid of everything surrounding Boston College and everything else we had heard. All right, now what game are we talking about? I'm sorry.
It's okay, but that was hey, Notre Dame. You got to give them credit. We both saw a lot of. You pointed out to me because you look at all these newsletters and you said, Russ, there's a million newsletters out there that all love Boston College. Yeah. And
the public was kind of enamored with them as well, getting the big points. And Notre Dame has a history of failing in that situation, that position where they win a big game, then they come back and they'll go through the doldrums. But like I said before, this may not be a year where a team is actually going to take a breath. They're going to come out every single week, and that I mentioned that last week about this game, and they just so manhandled that team, and they physically just shoved the ball down the throat. They had 580 yards offense, 560, something along those lines. I told you I was impressed with them against Clemson. They had lost.
This is a different animal, Notre Dame, this time around. This is a lot better team, in my estimation, at this point than the one that went undefeated and lost to Clemson in the national semifinal a couple years ago. The difference being Ian Book. Again, the kid just continues to impress me, Chipper. He's not going to wow you if you're a pro scout, okay? But he's a great college quarterback. He's elusive. He's mobile. He could beat you with his legs. He could beat you with his arm. He's smart. He makes great decisions. Very seldom turns the ball over. All the remedies of a great college quarterback.
Ross, I'm more and more impressed every time I see him. And the key that you just said was decision making. Yep. He really. There was times when it looked like he could run, and he threw the ball to an open receiver, and he's picking the right spots at the right time. And other times he's tucking the ball under, and he's scampering for 9 yards for the first down. I mean, I've grown by leaps and bounds with him.
Yeah.
I've gone from like a C minus, a C rating, and to thinking now he's in that B plus A minus category. And I think he's got potential to be playing on Sundays when he graduates Notre Dame.
And
And
they got
usually,
a great offensive line too. You know what I mean, Chipper? And they run the ball well, and their wide receivers. Go ahead.
No, remember they had a running back named Duhan years ago. Was that him?
Yeah.
That's what they have this running back now. This 23 or 24, and he's not a big kid, but you can tell he's like that other kid from Pittsburgh that had Connor. He's got heart. He runs.
They run
hard.
angry. They run angry.
He runs hard, and he's fast. I wasn't impressed early in the year. I'm thinking, now the more I watch him, I think Kelly's done a great job with the Irish. Kelly and the Irish, it should work.
That's the kid that broke off a 68-yard run in Notre Dame's first series against Clemson for a touchdown and got him off to a good start. Notre Dame's wide receivers might not have all the speed in the world, but they're certainly big, and they come up with 50-50 balls, and that's huge. And that tight end, that freshman tight end, Meyer, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
That kid's a player. He's an NFL player waiting to happen, Chip.
They are short-handed, and when you get the ball near them, they're catching the ball. That tight end is a monster. He's going to be tough particularly at this level. He's going to be tough to deal with. But I think maybe there are other receivers that are a little underrated as well.
It could be. I'm starting to believe that's the case because my big question mark going into the Clemson game is, could Ian Book win the game with his arm if he has to? He answered that question. Yep. And B, is their wide receivers going to be able to gain any separation against an athletic Clemson defense, namely the secondary? And they really, they don't need a lot of separation. Throws the ball accurately, and they win those 50-50 balls.
And we don't want to mention, they said, Trevor Lawrence wasn't playing. Like I said, number one, they scored 45 points on offense, and number two, he doesn't play defense. Exactly. And Notre Dame just put up points against that Clemson supposed vaulted defense, which looks like it may have a little kinks or a little more weaknesses in it than we had anticipated.
Yeah, and that Clemson true freshman quarterback, who's going to be a great one.
He looks good.
He threw for 460 yards in that game. So how much better could Trevor Lawrence have done? Like Chip says, he doesn't play defense the last we checked. Let's get back to the game that we were initially trying to talk about.
We had a game that we're talking about.
Number 9, Indiana. Number 3, Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
Saturday afternoon, Ohio State almost a 3-touchdown favorite, as I alluded to. Indiana, team that's burned me over the last couple weeks. I'm a believer now, but I don't know. I mean, this is a whole different animal going to Columbus and facing the Buckeyes on a week of rest. So you have any thoughts at all initially on this one, Chipper?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I have a really good friend. He's a Hoosier, and he every week keeps texting me. So he comes to this game, and I said, "Well, what do you think the number's going to be?" And he was pretty close. He said 20. Meanwhile, my other good buddy is his son's going to Alabama, so he's a homer. He's saying Alabama will kill Ohio State. And I said, "Well, what do you make Ohio State and Indiana?" And he says, "Well, I make Ohio State 7." So I said, "Well, you're demented. You're a homer. You're out of your mind." Three touchdowns is just like a huge number for this Indiana team. But, these two have a history between them, and I don't think it's good for Indiana unless, like I mentioned before, they're in that 100-meter swim pool.
Indiana's been a program on the rise.
Yes.
But the problem is when they stepped up in class, it's not like they get blown out, but they were losing close games and just couldn't get over that hurdle. Now you beat Michigan. Now that Michigan win doesn't look as big as it did when we first started, right? You beat Penn State. That certainly doesn't look like a big win at this particular juncture. And then you beat a Michigan State team that's absolutely dominated you over the years as well. And we both know Michigan State's not very good right now. So this is a stern test, Chip.
Well, I know that in recent seasons, you're excused. In recent seasons,
I dropped my notes, buddy. I'm getting old. I can't. I got to refer to my notes.
in recent seasons, I think I recall, I mean, maybe old age is setting in for me, but having Indiana playing this team really, really tough, getting 7.5, getting 10.5, having the score be within the margin, and then a fumble, an interception, a muff punt happen, and the Indiana not getting there. And I don't know if it's in my mind about them playing against Penn State. I'm pretty sure it's against Ohio State in the most recent years.
Yeah.
So so now I'm seeing this line 20.5 when Indiana's supposed to be good. How good is Ohio State?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to judge how good Alabama is. Every week they're 31-point favorites. That's the softest conference in the country, the SEC. Russ, I don't want to hear about how good they are. They have nothing to compete with Alabama. Now, this is the best the Big Ten has to give us against Ohio State, a 20-point favorite.
Yeah, and again, I go back to Chipper is think like a bookmaker, number one. And number two, always trust the bookmakers over the pollsters. So, yes, Indiana is number 9 at Ohio State is a 20.5-point dog. So that if you did, my math is correct and you went by the standard 3-point home advantage, even if you went 4-point home advantage, that means they would be anywhere from a 10 to 11-point home underdog against Ohio State. So that in itself tells me, look, the bookmakers don't give money away. I'm not saying not to take Indiana. I'm not saying I'm taking Ohio State. Just think about it before you make that knee-jerk reaction and make a pick on emotion. Okay, so that's a real tricky line in my opinion, Chipper. Hey, number 21 Liberty.
There's always going to be, I'm sorry, just one thing, there's always going to be Buckeye money out there, just like on the Irish. And that's why we're skeptical, last week and might be skeptical this week because the hordes, the alumni, there's always so much support for these teams. I'm sorry, Russ, go ahead.
It's okay. Number 21 Liberty in a similar situation they were a couple weeks ago. Going on the road against an ACC team. And we both remember, because a bad memory for us is Virginia Tech as a 17-point favorite, lost outright to this Liberty Flames team.
Outright.
Yes. This week they go on the road in Raleigh to take on North Carolina State. And North Carolina State is a short 3.5-point favorite here. Again, an unranked team as a favorite against this number 21 Liberty team that's undefeated right now. They've never got off to an 8-0 start in program history. That's at the FBS level, at the FCS level. Hugh Freeze, the former Ole Miss coach, showing his wares, and he got an extension through 2026. Can Liberty do it again, Chipper?
I think they got some pretty good players there. I'm telling you, they got a major transfer who's went to quarterback. Excuse me, Russ. We start the season. You and I playing the bookies against the pollsters, and we won like 5-6 in a row. And then they hit us with this Liberty and Virginia Tech, and we got reversed and crushed. And we got hit again with Virginia Tech against University of Miami.
Yeah. I
think what we ought to do is send the rest of the convoy to Virginia Tech so we don't have to deal with them anymore. They've already had 22 people kept from playing. I mean, they've killed us. But getting back to this, Liberty's a pretty good football team.
North Carolina State's not very good defensively, Chip. And you look at Liberty's numbers. I mean, they put up close to 500 yards against Virginia Tech. That was no fluke, right, Chipper? I mean, they won the game.
It wasn't. And this North Carolina State moves the ball as well. I remember correctly. I thought I saw their quarterback throwing darts all over the place against Florida State. But how bad is Florida State? But that's the game NC State's coming off of beating them, all right? And that program is just, as an aside, there were many years ago, Florida State and Florida would both be 1-10, 1-12 when they played. Then Bobby Bowden came in there, and the programs
they were
great for 30 years, if not 4 decades. And now it's just so hard to see Florida State like this again.
34.5-point underdog at home this week. I never thought I'd say that in my lifetime. Against Clemson, of course, but still a 34.5-point home underdog. And you know what? It's a justified line, Chip.
Yeah. And we have Penn State winless, and coming into Thanksgiving, for crying out loud. The whole thing is all shook up.
Everything's turned upside down this year. There's no two ways about it. Chip, you brought up a good point. We got about 6 minutes left in the show, but I wanted to touch upon it. You talked about teams with desperation, and it's one of those years where I think the college football playoff committee is going to have an absolute headache at the end of the year. Oh, yeah. This would be a perfect year to go to 8 teams. The NCAA, once they make their mind up, they're not going to change, even though public sentiment would want to see that. They're not going to change. So at the end of the year, I mean, you're looking at a team like Florida. If they run the table and then win the SEC championship game, they're going to get in as a one-loss team. You got teams like Cincinnati that could run the table. You got teams like Indiana right now. If they run the table, I mean, it's a long shot in my opinion.
Well, A&M is still in contention too.
A&M with one loss. Their only loss being against Alabama. And then you got these other schools like Marshall and Liberty and Coastal Carolina that are undefeated, and they're not going to get a fair shake. I'd really like, and they probably shouldn't, right? At the end of if you're going to go to 4 teams, they're not one of the 4 best teams in the country.
If you're going to play 12 games and they go 12-0, it's worth a consideration. If they're going to be 7-8-0 in this type of environment, I don't see how we can't do it.
Here's my attitude, okay, Chip, and I never shared this thought with you, but I don't understand why college football, the FBS, can't go to a 16-team playoff. You know how exciting that would be? You take all 8 or 9 of the conference winners, and then you take 7 at-large teams. So the little guys like the Coastal Carolinas and the Liberties and the Central Florida from a couple years ago that went undefeated and then won a bowl game have an opportunity. It's setting like March Madness. Now, here's the thing. Division II and Division III have expanded playoff formats that go 24 teams, actually, with the top 8 getting a first round bye. The reason why division or the FBS doesn't do it, or so they say, is because of academic issues. Meaning,
I don't believe that.
Well, the other schools don't have it? What, meaning academic pressure, because it's right around the testing time.
Ross, I would think more, it's more dollars and cents with the bowl games and the situations they have with them. I think a 16-team, 8 team, I could go with. 16 team would take too long a period of time, and you'd be locking up teams a week after week. It isn't 8 is probably what they're going to end up with. I mean, every sport has been expanding the playoff format. And then you're going to get your Coastal Carolina, Liberty, or Marshall involved, and then they won't have a bitch because they'll have maybe one of them will get in, of the 3 that are say worthy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good for us because it gives us more games at the end of the year to handicap and sell and bet. But I really don't care about seeing the Horses Ass Bowl in Laredo, Texas, between VMI and Citadel. You know what I mean?
What are they going to do with the bowl season this year? Are they going to have the bowl games? Or are they cutting down because
I think everything's flexible. Yeah, everything's flexible at this point. I know a few of them have canceled already, the lower end bowl. So we'll see. We got just 2 minutes to go here, Chip. So we're going to make this real quick for the listeners. Wisconsin, number 10 in the country at number 19 Northwestern. Wisconsin coming off 2 impressive wins to start the season. Number 19 Northwestern at 3-0. Pat Fitzgerald continues to work his magic at Northwestern. Not a flashy team, Chipper, but they're a dangerous home underdog, in my opinion. Wisconsin right now, a 9-point road favorite.
Well, I think that number's big because we know the pedigree of a Northwestern team with their coaching and fundamentals. They're going to keep this game close fundamentally, I would think. But Wisconsin, they've got the glitz and they've got the glitter and they've got the offense and a quarterback that can throw the ball, something we haven't seen out there. I don't ever remember Wisconsin have a top flight quarterback. They've been a running back machine and, those corn-fed linemen on both sides of the line.
I mean, they keep, I don't know where they grow those kids, but
they're monsters every year.
A lot of bratwurst in the state of Wisconsin must beef them kids up at an early age because, and they turn out to be good NFL players too. They were showing, Wisconsin offensive linemen are at the top of the chart when it comes to NFL draft picks.
Yeah, once Barry Alvarez got there, I mean, their program was in the doldrum for decades as well. And then he turned this whole thing around for them, and very competitive. They might be the team that Ohio State has to worry about. And although Northwestern's not going to be an easy task, I think that they're the better team.
This very easily could fall. They could get inside the number without winning the game.
Big number.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big number, especially at home. So, and especially considering that Wisconsin's just played 2 games so far. The true freshman quarterback there was sort of average last week after having a great opening against Illinois, but he didn't have to be. They ran the ball tremendously.
He was down for 3 weeks. He was the one that got the virus with the club, and he was sick for a couple of weeks. So, maybe it takes him another week to come back strong. Some people come back, stronger than others, and it's actually it's quite a question as to what happens when these people get sick.
I'll tell you who else he got sick. He got Jim Harbaugh sick, who's right now. I don't know how you justify bringing him back. I know he's an alumni. I know he's had success, but he hasn't. He can't beat Ohio State, number one. That's the main game on your schedule.
Yeah.
If you can't beat Ohio State, you're not going to get to a playoff, 14 playoff. It's about
not even competitive, Ross.
No, not even. It's amazing. And how bad are they? Michigan State beat them. Okay, that's how bad they are. Michigan State right now, to me, looks absolutely pitiful, awful. And Michigan lost to them at home as a 3-touchdown favorite. Anyway, one more game, real quick, Chip. Oklahoma, number 14 at Oklahoma State, or excuse me, the other way around. Oklahoma State, number 18 at number 14, Oklahoma. Right now, Oklahoma is a 7-point favorite. A little contrast in styles here. Oklahoma State, definitely the best defense, in my opinion, in the Big 12 against the best offense in the Big 12, in my opinion, in Oklahoma. But Oklahoma's defense it continues to be an enigma. It has been for the last few years, Chip. Real quick, what's your thoughts?
Big game for both sides. I think the number's probably where it should be at 7. If it was 6, I wouldn't be surprised. The Gundy defense is going to have to show up here for them to win. I sort of think that this might be a play for the Cowboys, though. I've known in the past that they haven't fared as well as they could against the Sooners, but they played the big Texas game, and now they got to play this game here, and we're gonna have to wait and see, Ross. I think we have another show with the colleges update later in the week.
Yes,
and
we're gonna have one Thursday. That is correct.
Yeah, good. I'll have a little bit more.
We'll revisit this. Yeah. So. All right. I hate to cut you short, Chipper, but we're running short on time. Real quick, your phone number for where people can reach you.
Thank you, Ross. I'm at 702-931-CHIP. That's 702-931-2447. You get to me, we'll discuss what's going on the weekend and maybe get you some winners.
He's 19-8 with his last 27 NFL standalone games. He's got a game tonight for you. Give him a call. You can get my plays at rbwins.com. That's rbwins.com. I got the winning total in tonight's Chicago game. Chicago my
Minnesota.
mind just went Minnesota. I mean, I bet the total, so I can't remember the sides. Boy, oh boy. Talk about seniorism. Anyway, until the next time, folks, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow right here on the OSGA YouTube channel. Thank you for watching The Winner's Circle with Ross Benjamin and Chip Chirimbus.
Thank you, Ross.